Nyeba gunle namdole shen yende gunye gemba semje gunye nye jibu namje kenla gunjai. So, to continue our Dharma discussions, we were talking about the conduct, conduct as in more broad way, which includes almost most of our practices. And one very core or the essence of the conduct is also known as the intention or aspiration practice, which is followed by the six paramita as in the application aspects of that. So this intention or this motivation or this outlook or way of thinking is considered as a very core, as a door and a very important part. So maybe today I will say a few things about the practice of intention or bodhicitta or it includes loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, so everything. Especially, I think these days, terms such as compassion, loving kindness became almost synonymous with Buddhism, which is very good. But also sometimes we might be understand it in a little bit superficial level, and we will not really understand the actual relationship between the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, with the core identification of the problem from the Buddhist point of view. So it's very important to understand that, because we might think that the compassion or the bodhicitta as in like maybe since nobody argues with the loving kindness, and nobody argues with the altruistic mind. And maybe because we little bit sometimes overused it, and we might think maybe this is the marketing slogan of Buddhism. It might sound like that. It is not, because if you really ask, there's a big reason why we emphasize. In fact, we try to teach, we try to remember that before the appreciation practice we do is that there are many practices we could do, many ways, many methods as a Buddha Dharma. But if we ask, okay, so what is the main problem? Illusion, samsara, suffering, yes, everything is. But if you ask me a question, if we ask like Buddha or Buddhist, so tell me what is the main problem, what is the real problem? And then there's always one question, answers comes up, is clinging. Why we are in samsara? Because of clinging. Why we are suffering? Because of clinging. Although we talk about attachment, anger, all this, but it all goes to the ignorance. And how do we define ignorance? Clinging. And especially all those clashes, disturbing emotions, and the sufferings, directly, indirectly, conditionally, comes from this self-clinging. Clinging, self-kicking, clinging, self-cherishing mind, self-centric mind. In the mind training, at the very end of practice, they say that Lelen Tamje Chiglanda. Whenever I investigate, I look around, I always see one problem which becomes the source of all the other problems. That is this self-cherishing mind. So since this is very fundamental belief, principles of Buddhism, because of that, so now if we ask, okay, so what can I do? Can you give me one very effective, safe, accessible practice in order to, I don't want to go in very far, I just want very quick and safe and effective practice. And then there's no more practice. You won't find anything better than this bodhicitta. We might overlook it, we might underestimate it, we might disregard it, thinking, oh, I understand it, or I know it, or I know, understand, I know. But so philosophically, logically, this is very related to what principally Buddhists believe as a cause of suffering, cause of problem. So it's a very logical, it's a philosophical, it's not just like this good feeling kind of, oh, let's talk about compassion, no. I think it's nothing wrong with advertising Dharma through the compassion and loving kindness. It's okay, but it's very important to know more deeper, and see the real, what is the relationship. So this is, you can also understand it from the point of view. Let's say you want to go to somewhere and you're very scared of being sick, and you go to your doctor and say, I don't want to eat many medicines, and I don't know what kind of disease I might get, but can you just prescribe me like one medicine, that I can use from any kind of disease, but I want it to be very effective, easy to use. And then probably, unfortunately, we might not have that kind of physical medicine, and if your doctor give you like one medicine, easy, effective, which can cure any kind of disease or problems that you might encounter, that kind of medicine is this loving kindness, this bodhicitta. In fact, they said that if you this is like if you have one thing, you have everything almost. And if you miss this one thing, if you lose this one thing, you lose everything. So this is quite a, it's like we say, this is like a steering wheel, for your practice. And Buddha talks a lot about this intention, how the right intention leads to all the right activity and right result, and how the wrong intention leads to all the wrong action and the wrong results. So first of all, it's important to understand value, power of intention, especially this bodhicitta. It's not very difficult, because if you look at what makes us suffering, the moment you go far from the compassion, you suffer directly with that. The moment you go close to the compassion or bodhicitta, all the problems just resolve by itself without even doing much effort. You see that, you will see that it's not that difficult. Imagine that one moment you got angry, and you can become a very angry, and then make lots of negative mental thoughts, maybe act something through that. And now, or you just pause there and practice a little bit compassion. Result is dramatically different, regardless of condition. So I'm trying to say is that we underestimate, and we might think, I know bodhicitta, I understand it, but it's not that superficial. It's important to really go more deeper and take more seriously, as a Buddhist in general, especially the Mahayanists. Now this, sometimes we categorize these intentions in, let's say, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. They are little bit like, you can understand that the compassion and the loving kindness is the part of bodhicitta. So when we say bodhicitta or mind of enlightenment, it's a combination of all these small things together. But as a process, we can say, okay, loving kindness first, and then compassion second, then as a result, and we can also say that. So we should not confuse between them. In fact, in Tibetan, we have a very beautiful word for this compassion, nyingche, which means that nying means heart. So whenever we think we practice compassion, it should not come from our intellectual mind. Of course, we can train through the intellectual mind, but when you're practicing, it should always come from this intuitively, from the heart. So nying literally means the heart. And a J means the king, or the principle. So we might have a different kind of thoughts or the emotions, but this is the, you can say, the king of our emotions, the best emotions that one can have as a human being. And that's what we call Ning Je. And another, from the Dharma term, we also use this Kunlong, motivation, good motivation. Each time we start practice of teaching, the teacher will remind you, please listen with, all this. And each time you practice, you study, there's always this motivation session at the very beginning, just to remind us. Again, the word is quite strong. So kun literally means all. It means that we have lots of motivations. We have lots of thoughts that is going in our mind. And long means to activate, or to generate, or to wake up. So when we say generate the motivation, kun long, it means just look at our thoughts, with our minds, and then activate the best one, the good one, and disregard, eliminate all these as unnecessary thoughts. So it's almost like saying, filter your positive thoughts, activate that, wake that positive mind, the positive thoughts, is good and long. So it's quite a strong word. So, and to practice that Bodhicitta, there are many different ways where we can do. But in order to evoke, in order to develop that kind of motivation, usually in the text it says that we have to practice these 4 so-called boundless, four immeasurable or 4 boundless practices that we can do. And they are quite effective. It's not that complicated. And I think we are all familiar with these prayers, that all the, whether you do sadhanas or any practice, rituals, at the very beginning, after the refuge, this prayer comes that may all beings possess happiness and cause of happiness. Right? May all beings be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. Second. May all beings possess joy, joyful, and may all beings possess equanimity mind, unbiased equanimity. So usually these 4. So first line indicates the practice of loving kindness. Second is compassion. Third one is joyfulness. And fourth one is the practice of equanimity. They're quite simple. Now, again, these are, you can say, the components of bodhicitta. Okay, you're practicing bodhicitta, but progressively, so to speak, one by one. So when you put all these intentions together, you can call bodhicitta in a way. Generally speaking, the word body and chitta, there's two words. And in Tibetan we have again two words, Chachuk is same. And that is how it is translated in English, mind of enlightenment. But I think we need some clarification, because it sounds like, okay, so mind of enlightened being, yeah, so or something like that, so mind of Buddha or something like that. But it's not really what it means. Is that mind that is very strongly, or how to say, mind that is very strongly inspired to be enlightened. Yeah. So it could be our mind, anybody's mind, not necessarily something special's mind. So if your mind is strongly aspire or inspired to become an enlightened, to become a liberated, for the sake of all beings. So this is what we call the mind of enlightenment. Now there's two kind of meanings in here. There's a compassion aspect and there's a wisdom. So that's why we also said that if you condense all the practice into two things, you need your compassion and wisdom, right? So it always helps you to not fall into the extremes. It keeps you when you have these two things. So in this context, let's say mind, okay, of, let's say, mind of enlightened. So this enlightened part is a wisdom aspect. So you want to enlighten, you want to become an enlightened, right? And this is the first aspect of Bodhicitta, the enlightened aspect, the wisdom aspect. And second, the compassion aspect is not in there directly in the word, but it has to be understood. So now, okay, if I ask, but why? For whom? For all the sentient beings, for the sake of all the sentient beings. So it's not in there, but this question comes. So you want to be enlightened, wisdom, but not for yourself, for everyone. So this everyone, for the sake of all the sentient beings, compassion. So when you have these two motivations, aiming towards the enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings, combined together, this is what we call Bodhicitta. And so the aspirational bodhicitta and the action bodhicitta, we can call it. So right now I'm talking about this aspirational bodhicitta or the intentional bodhicitta, which is very, very important to start with. So how to do that? By practicing these four practices. Generally speaking, it is like this. So these are very much related to each other. It will act and the cause and result. So first, understanding the suffering, as Buddha said in the Four Noble, is very important. Acknowledgement of suffering of oneself and for others. Now, important here is to remember this in this prayer. They say that may all beings possess happiness. This is easy, but the cause of happiness, that's very important. Not just happiness, cause of happiness. It means that let's say, may my mother possess happiness, right, for momentarily, but she might still not know what is the cause of happiness. Here, cause of happiness refers to the practicing dharma or virtues, yeah, and then cause of suffering refers to the non-virtuous states. So in the mundane world, we can only expect someone to be happy, but we cannot really expect and teach them to accumulate the cause of happiness, because it comes from the practicing dharma, and in mundane, we have no idea. So in fact, in a way, you want all sentient beings to be enlightened through practicing or dharma, or through realizing the reality. This is your hope. So it's not a small, it's a very big aim. Similarly, you practice, you wish not just free from the suffering, but again cause of suffering. So if somebody says bad things to us and he is angry, you don't wish that, oh, this person may calm down. You also wish that, oh, may this person be free from the anger as well. So now you have an understanding of suffering is first. So when you have an understanding of suffering, it will start the loving kindness. Why we can't love ourselves or others? We don't understand the suffering of oneself and others. So we kind of, this person's fault, or this person is stupid, or this person is naturally a bad person, we have all these wrong misunderstanding. That's why we are not being able to love, so we cannot open, we're scared. So this understanding of suffering, or the understanding of problem, leads to this openness, loving kindness. And the loving kindness will lead to the compassion. And when you put the loving kindness and compassion, you have bodhicitta. Now we can say conventional or relative bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta, in the sense that when you have compassion, when you have a loving kindness, but still this is in the sphere of duality, it is emotional, like for us. So there is a compassion, there is a loving kindness, and there is a bodhicitta that is beyond the emotional level, beyond the duality. This is what we call the ultimate bodhicitta. And this ultimate bodhicitta, as a result, leads to the Buddhahood. So you see the connection? Buddhahood comes from the ultimate bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta comes from the compassion, which is related to the loving kindness. And where the loving kindness starts, understanding the suffering and the cause of suffering of oneself to the other. So one good example is that let's say we all have a problem of not being able to love ourselves. Where is this coming? This self-hatedness, where is this coming? We don't do the introspection and see that we almost like blame, there's certain kind of like blaming. Oh, I'm lazy. Oh, I'm an angry person. So you have this kind of like a hatredness, this aversion to this me. And because of that, you cannot love yourself. As if this person is intentionally being angry, intentionally being lazy, yeah? Or intentionally being confused. And when you have more that kind of perception to this me, you get more angry. It just then anger becomes more anger. It gets worse and worse. Now if you look at what is happening inside is this, yes, I'm lazy, but it's happening very by the power of ignorance and the other emotions, It's not that I'm intentionally doing laziness, no, it's just happening. So if you just understand that this is not happening intentionally or within the power of its own virtues, but it is happening because of certain kind of conditional, certain kind of, we call karma, yeah? In the sense that there's certain kind of energies that creates this. So there's no need to be angry with this laziness or this ignorance. Yeah? But it doesn't mean that, okay, so I'm lazy, I cannot do anything. No, since there's a cause and a condition, since this laziness doesn't help you, you can do something. But not necessarily with the hatred, yeah? You can work with this laziness me and angry me with love. But you have to understand first that this suffering and this cause of suffering is happening because of the conditioned phenomena, and you are a conditioned phenomena. So this opens communication between, this, the one me who's giving a lecture and one who is like being a stupid or angry or lazy or whatever we call. So this, if you look at this process, the self-hatred starts from not understanding the suffering and cause of suffering. Do you remember the first line? May all beings be free from the suffering and the cause of suffering. And you just easily blame, oh, stupid. But it's just not true. So where to start understanding the condition, understanding the suffering and cause of suffering, the first line. And it will trigger our loving kindness. So now I think the difference between loving kindness and compassion is a little bit difficult, but both of these are altruistic mind. Both of these are something to do with concerning the other people's feeling, but main difference is that when we say loving kindness, our focus is on the happiness. Remember the first line and the second line, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free from suffering. So see, the loving kindness is wishing someone to be happy. So there's a focus is on the happiness. And the compassion is that, oh, I wish someone is free from suffering. So focus is on the suffering. So that's the difference. Even though as a result, maybe not much different, but when you practice, when you focus, one is focusing, aiming towards the happiness, and the other is on the suffering. And when you combine this together, concern of the other's suffering and concern and the concern to the happiness, and then you, for the sake of all beings, and this is now you're seeing the full pictures of mind of enlightenment. When you put this all together, but when you practice, you can practice one by one. And now the mind, the practice of joyfulness, it's a, it's a, these are related to the first two, but when you see joy in the sense that when something good is happening within yourself, or something good is happening to somebody, you rejoice it. So, for example, like say, I'm just being able to practice for 5 minutes, what a great. So this sense of gratitude, sense of appreciation towards one's own happiness as well as others' happiness. And this is what we call the joyfulness. It's quite a strong emotion actually. It's almost like a feel, We always look reason to be happy, but actually it's not true. There's so many already reason is there to be happy. We just have to recognize them. And the fourth one, the practice of equanimity is in order to make our practice more, how to say, authentic. So we might practice compassion, but we might be practicing wisely, right? Okay, I can love to myself but not to other. I cannot share my love. Or I can love to my parents but not to everyone. Not a way for my enemies, So we will be doing something, but then there's lots of these boundaries. So it will kind of stop us to becoming really this boundless practice. And that's why the fourth one, so that you can be free from the biasness or the dualistic practice. So your practice, this compassion and loving kindness becomes the limitless. This is what it means, boundless. So now the very important part here is that actually each of these practices eliminates the causes and conditions, the negative causes and conditions that will prevent us from growing this bodhicitta or developing this bodhicitta. So for example, the loving kindness will eliminate the hatedness, hate, anger. As long, why we cannot generate bodhicitta? Because we hate others, we hate ourselves. That's why we cannot open. We feel vulnerable. And the compassion act as in the remedy or the eliminates the attachment, which is again a very strong, effective, unfavorable circumstances in order to develop and generate our kind of enlightenment. And this practice of joyful is a remedy, or it eliminates the jealousy. Now this is important because as a human being, maybe animal there's a less, but as a human being we live in the social, and our life is very much extended to everywhere. Especially our modern life is based on the competition, right? in the name of development. So you have to compete with everyone, even within your family, even in your partner, in a way, so-called to become a success. So it is unfortunately taught in the school how to compete, how not to be joyful, how to be more arrogant. This is the, like, how to say, recipe of being success, unfortunately. So it's quite an important part if we want to practice bodhicitta in this modern life, practicing the joyfulness. And good thing is that it's like recharging, but you can recharge yourself through someone else's battery. Right? Let's say you don't have to do much. Someone is getting happy, and because of that, you are being recharged. Actually, in the Bodhicitta Avadara, it talks a lot about this. And Shantideva says that when someone gets happy, you should thank this person, because actually, as a bodhisattva, it's your job. And now he's doing your job, You didn't do anything, but he became happy. You should thank them and sing, "Please reducing my burden." Even though we don't like to say this, but I think in our emotional, so many, this anger also are coming from this competitiveness, with family, with friends. Immediately when you say, here, someone is doing a little bit better than you, yes, but there's some sort of this second thoughts come up, and then you start saying, yes, but then he was this, he's that, you are going through screening all these negativities. So it plays a very big role in our emotion, even though it is not clearly mentioned. We talk about anger, but we don't want to talk about that. And this, the third one, again, one reason is that so we don't become biased, but it is also a very important practice, because it will, in our normal state, that someone gets very like ups and downs, we say calm down, relax. Yeah. So this is exactly, mostly our emotions are overreactions towards the conditions. Fear, whether it is fear, attachment or anger. So we always overreact and make it worse. So this fourth one is very, it doesn't really matter what kind of conditions you encounter. Take it easy, and being calm, not being overreacting. As I was saying, the overly disappointed or overly excited, and it always brings problems to our compassion mind. So being in somewhere in the middle, freeing from all these overreactions, is called practice of equanimity. So now, because this you can practice also in the Theravadan system, there's also this practice, and also in Mahayana practice. And sometimes this order in the Theravadan, it starts with the loving kindness, compassion, joyful, and the equanimity is very at the end. But it is encouraged to practice at the end, because it's not easy, But in the Mahayana practice, sometimes we start with this equanimity, because it is said that if you don't start with the equanimity, then there's a danger of being biased compassion, biased loving kindness. So you start with the equanimity practice first, and then all the other practice, whatever you do, becomes the unbiased practice. So yeah, so to sum up, we have to, this intention or the motivation practice is a very core practice of our conduct in Mahayana. And it's important to understand that these are not just sound good practice or marketing slogans. It's a very, very deep rooted how to say, principles is in there as a belief of Buddhism, and it is like the all-in-one medicine. Yeah? And in order to practice that, we can make it into the loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, and each of these practices eliminates certain kind of disturbing emotions which are unfavorable conditions towards the arising and the developing our mind of enlightenment. And also it's very important to start with the recognizing and the understanding the suffering. Sanandi
Tapche Sikpani Tamne Nyepen Ranam Pamche Kega Nachi Bolan Trupai Sepen Solen Doan Doan Sho. By this merit may all obtain omniscience, may it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara may I free all beings.